Today on In the Woodyard, we're going to talk about 7 firewood facts. Here we go. So I came up with 7 different things about firewood that are facts that are kind of universal. I'm sure there's more, but I have 7. Number 1, all wood burns. There's a lot of people that think their wood that they have is the best wood and it's the only wood you should get. Well, there's a lot of good wood and it all burns. Some wood is better than others, yes. Some wood is fantastic. Some wood is average, some wood is below average, but it all burns. And if you're using it for heating and you got a boiler, it doesn't matter. Throw it all in, it'll burn. If you want something that's really going to be perfect, say you're smoking, you want a certain kind of wood for a certain flavor, you want hickory, you want cherry, you want white oak, that's fine. But that's not the only kind of wood there is. It all burns. So don't be afraid to try different kinds of wood. I get people ask me on my channel all the time, what's the best kind of wood? Well, the best kind of wood is whatever you have available. And the wood that's dry, that is ready to burn now. That's the best wood. So if that happens to be aspen, that's the best wood you have. If it's pine, that's the best wood you have. If it's oak, that's the best wood you have. If you have hickory available, if you have Osage orange, if you have almond wood, if you have pecan, some of the nut trees produce fantastic wood. Ash, which is what this is in this pile right here, is great wood because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it available right now because it's dying. It is fairly dry wood when you cut it, when it's green, when it's fresh. You can burn it very quickly after the fact of cutting it and splitting it. So all around, ash is a fantastic wood, but so is all the other wood. It all burns. So don't be afraid to try different stuff. I had a guy ask me just the other day, hey, I've got a willow tree available. My neighbor's got it, it fell over, I can cut it up and get the wood for free and I have a boiler. Can I burn that wood in the boiler? Well, yeah, of course you can. But it puts out a low BTU. So what a lot of people will argue about is like, oh, oak is the best because that's what I have. Well, yeah, it's good wood. But if a guy has a big, huge tree that's free, cottonwood or willow, yeah, it's not the greatest wood. It's still gonna burn, it's still gonna put out BTUs, just not as much, about half of what some other woods will do. And that's kind of the argument, is that if you're gonna go through all the work to produce the wood, you might as well make the best wood possible. So in your area, whatever that is, look at the BTU charts, you can look it up online. All the wood is rated by BTU. The higher the number, the more heat it puts out. The lower the number, the less heat it puts out. So just look at the chart. So say in your area, if you've got red oak and that puts out 23, it rates 23 on the BTU scale, and you've got, say, willow, and that puts out like, I think it's 12 or somewhere in there, 13, it's pretty low. So it's about half of what the oak would put out. You're gonna need twice as much willow to put out as much heat as the oak would put out. So that's something to think about. So if whatever you've got is available, that's what you burn. So this here is the oak that I mentioned. It is a barkless oak. Most of this is going to be ready to burn right now because it has been dead standing wood, so the bark is off of it. It's big percentage of it is dry. There are some larger pieces that will require some additional drying, and that's important because oak is a very slow drying wood. A lot of wood is good to go in 3 to 6 months if you cut it and split it and get it in a sunny, breezy area. The lighter woods will burn faster. The lower BTU woods like aspen, pine, box elder, stuff like that dries very fast, and it's okay wood. But if you want wood that's going to put out more heat, oak, you're going to want to get some stuff like this. Now, if you can get barkless oak, that's fantastic. If it's not barkless, if it's a live tree and you cut it, it's going to take longer to dry unless you split it down finer. So that's one of the things that guys will ask me about all the time. Like, how long does my wood need to dry? As long as it takes. That's the answer. The finer you split it down, the faster it'll dry. The more open and breezy area, sunny area you put it in, keeping it off the ground, it'll dry faster. So this stuff is good stuff. Another fact, different kinds of wood has different weight to it, which means this piece of hickory right here weighs twice as much as this piece of pine. Yes, this is twice as heavy as this piece of pine. Now, this will put out half as much heat as this. This will burn twice as fast as this. But if I was to take a ton, 2,000 pounds of pine and 2,000 pounds of hickory, the pile of hickory would be half the size of the pile of pine because the wood fibers in the pine are farther apart. It's a fluffier, lighter wood. There's more air in it than the hickory, is much more dense. So A ton of this and a ton of this will still put out the same amount of heat. But this pile will be half the size of this pile. And the reason why a lot of people like to burn hickory and oak and almond and Osage orange, it's a heavier, denser wood, because you have to do half as much work to get the same amount of heat. But the pine is still fine. Benefits of pine is that it's easier to cut, light's easy, dries really nice, sounds really good when it's burning, smells really good when it's burning, great campfire wood, but it doesn't put out as much heat. So if you're burning just for enjoyment, pine is fine. If you're burning for heat or you want flavor in a meat that you're smoking, hickory is awesome. We're gonna go deliver this load of wood right now. So we just made the big dump, which was great. That came from this pile. Now this is mixed hardwood, which is a little bit of everything. So what I want to talk about is the kind of wood you're going to have in your area. That's what you're going to burn. Because wood is heavy, bulky, and hard to transport, or expensive to transport, you're probably not going to have a lot of wood trucked in from a long distance. So generally, once you get past 50, 60, maybe 80 miles away from where you are, if you draw a circle around you, that's pretty much whatever you have in that area is pretty much what you're going to burn. Yeah, you can truck wood in from hundreds of miles away, but you're going to pay through the nose for it. The price will double or triple because trucking is expensive. So you're going to burn what you have. Now, one of my new best friends, Jeremy Smith, out in New Mexico, I was there about 2 years ago. They have two kinds of wood. They have ponderosa pine, they call it pondo, and they have pinyon pine. That's all they have. That's it. There's no other wood. I mean, they have a few things here and there. There might be an ash tree or a cottonwood in some low-lying areas, but in general, they have two kinds of wood. That's it. So they burn what they have. No, ponderosa pine is average wood. Pinyon pine is very good wood, very high BTU, so it's good wood to burn. That's what they have. Now, because I'm in Wisconsin here in the Midwest, we have a lot of kinds of wood. I personally can identify around 40, 45 kinds of wood that we have here. I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 different kinds of trees that we can get, but there's about 40 or so I can identify. Of those 40, there's probably a dozen that's the common wood that you're gonna have to burn, because that's what the majority of the wood is. Now, this piece of wood right here is a kind of wood you're gonna see out west a lot. It's cottonwood. It's very light wood once it dries. It's heavy when you first cut it. Very wet when you cut it, and now that it's dry, it's very light. Does not put out a lot of BTUs. But in some of the western states, this is what they have, because it grows in low-lying areas. So there's a lot of open plains, and then wherever there's drainages and creeks, they're gonna have cottonwood. That's what they've got to burn. They might have some other stuff, but they're gonna have a lot of cottonwood. Around here, a lot of people turn their nose up to it because it puts out half as much BTUs as some of the heavier woods. So that's one kind. Another kind we have right here, this is soft maple, not hard maple, this is soft maple. It's an average wood. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's average, and it burns really nice. Doesn't put out quite as much heat as hard maple, but it's still a nice wood. We have a lot of that around here. We have a little bit of hard maple to the north of us, and then there's a lot of it more to the north of us. So that's what we have. Another piece right here, this is a piece of ash. We have a lot of ash right now because it's dying. A lot of low-lying areas, a lot of the high timbers has it too. White ash, we see a lot of it. It's a great wood. It dries really fast. It burns a lot like oak. Not quite as much BTUs, but a very nice wood. Another kind of wood we have some of in this pile right here is elm. This is a piece of elm. Elm splits very hard. A little bit above average as far as BTUs. It's nice. It's not quite as good as oak or hickory or Osage orange, stuff like that, but it's a nice wood. So this pile that's behind me here is all the stuff that's not oak, it's not hickory, it's not hard maple, it's not pine. This is my mixed hardwood pile. This is where I put it all, because it's mixed hardwood. Now we also have birch, which is again an average wood, but in some areas, especially some parts of the world, they have birch and they have pine or a spruce, and that's all they have. Parts of Canada they have a lot, and parts of northern Europe has a lot of birch, and that's their #1 wood. For us, it's an average wood. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's just an average wood. Generally, your nut trees will produce better firewood. So white oak, red oak, bur oak, which is also another kind of white oak, red oak, and black oak, which is also another kind of red oak. Those are all really good woods. They put out very nice BTUs, but like I said earlier, it takes a long time for that stuff to dry. Then above that, we've got hickory, and above that in our area, we have ironwood, which is awesome wood. That puts out the most heat of any wood in our area. Another name for ironwood is hornbeam, and some of the eastern parts of the United States, they call it hornbeam. There's several varieties of ironwood. There's blue beech, and then hornbeam or regular ironwood is what we call it. It's an understory tree, very dense, very hot burning. Now, if you go south of us, you're gonna see more hickory. And again, here in hickory, we have two kinds of hickory here. We have bitternut hickory and we have shagbark hickory. Both hickory trees put about the same BTUs. Then farther south yet, you're going to find Osage orange. We do not have very much of that here at all, very little of it. Farther south you go from Wisconsin to Illinois, there's a lot of Osage orange, which is excellent wood as far as BTUs. So you're going to burn what you have. Parts of Alaska, for instance, they have spruce. That's it, spruce. That's all they have in certain parts. So whatever you've got in your area is what you're going to burn. There you go. On to the next one. The next firewood fact I have for you is there are different names in different regions of the country and in the world for the amount of wood that you have. Now, what I have right here is a full cord of wood. There's 3 rows. It is 4 feet high. It is 8 feet long, and it's 4 feet wide. So 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet. 128 cubic feet is a full cord. Now, certain parts of the country, especially out east, it is actually illegal to call wood anything other than a full cord or a fraction of a cord, which means if I was to sell this whole pile or deliver it to someone, this would be called a full cord. If I was to divide this exactly in half, it would be a half a cord. If I was to take one of these rows, it would be a third of a cord. But where I live in Wisconsin here and in the Midwest, the front of this, or the face of it, because there's 16-inch pieces here, the face of it is called a face cord. Now technically, a face cord is 4 feet high, 8 feet long. The dimensions of the length don't matter to be called a face cord, so you could go all the way out to 3 feet if you want. But in this area, pretty much most of the country, standard size is 16 inches. And in Europe, I know a lot of times in some of the other countries, New Zealand, Australia, they go with centimeters, and their wood, if you go by inches, is like 10 or 12 inches long. We go 16 inches, that's pretty much just the standard. So it's kind of assumed that your pieces are 16 inches because that's a standard size. So face cord, and there's 3 of these in, 3 face cords in a full cord. That's how we say it. Now, if you go south in some of the other parts of the country, this is actually considered a rick, the one row that you see here, or it's also called a rank. So there's that. So this could be 3 ranks or 3 ricks. You can call it whatever you want in your area, and that's perfectly fine. I personally believe that if the person selling the wood and the person buying the wood agree on a price for a quantity of wood, everyone's happy and no one else should care. It doesn't matter. If someone's willing to pay me for this pile, say $1,000, which they aren't, I would say that's fine. Let's do $1,000. They'd be happy, I'd be happy. The price I sell this for though is $360. Now, if I go south of me into like the Chicago area, because there's lots of people, not a lot of trees, this pile of wood right here would be worth $700, $800. Now, if I go to the west of me, about 50, 60, 70 miles to the west, there's not a lot of people. There's a lot of trees. This pile right here would be worth maybe $180. I know some people that would sell this for $150. To me, that's ridiculous. It's not worth it. I mean, it's worth way more than that for the amount of effort and work you have to put and time you have to put into it. So there you go. Full cord, face cord. I'll show you another face cord over here. So I'm on the other side. This right here is the full cord, 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet. And then this pile right here is a face cord. So you can see it's 8 feet long, 4 feet high, 16-inch pieces. That is a face cord. The next firewood fact is that firewood is sold way too cheap for the amount of work, time, and effort you have to put into it. You have to have a chainsaw. You have to have either an axe or maul for splitting or a hydraulic splitter. You have to have a truck or a trailer to haul the wood in. Physically, it's a lot of work. Now, that's a good thing because I think that firewood is probably one of the best exercise you can get for lifting, weight, stretching, getting a good workout. Now, there's a lot of people that will go to a gym or a facility to go lift weights. My question to those people is, why would you do that when you can do something like this and actually be productive? There's nothing wrong with people going to the gym and working out. I know there's people that are really into it all across the world, and they're trying to get a perfect physique or try to stay in shape or try to build their body up. But what do you actually produce? Sweat. I produce sweat and wood, and I can sell it and make some money. Now, even if you're not selling it, you're producing wood that you can then use, that you can get heat from, enjoyment, warmth, all that good stuff. You get to be outside instead of being inside. I always say the best day inside is worse than the worst day outside. Being out is always better than in. So, firewood is fantastic exercise. If everybody did firewood, there'd be a lot less health problems. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel, but it's awesome exercise. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun, great exercise. But it's sold way too cheap. For the amount of equipment you have to produce it, it should be sold for more money. Next one. The next fact that I have is that wood in general, firewood, wood products are using a resource that is the world's most renewable resource. Trees, firewood, it grows back as soon as you open up the canopy, light comes down to the forest floor, more trees grow. It's a good thing. I know a lot of people are really big into recycling and saving a tree. You know what? They grow back. It's just a fact, they do. It is the most renewable resource. And people that are anti-logging, you should be using dirt to wipe your butt, because toilet paper, tissues for wiping your nose, paper toweling, all that stuff comes from trees. And yes, some of it can be reused, and that's fine. But every woods that's ever cut will grow back unless it's paved over. And even then, long after we're gone, it'll grow back. Trees keep coming, they just do. Most forests self-regenerate. If you talk to any logger, they'll tell you that they're on a rotating basis where they log off an area, and in another 30, 40 years, they log it off again. It just keeps coming back. It's the most renewable resource there is. So firewood is a good thing, and we're not drilling for it. You just cut the trees down, they grow back. It's pretty simple. You don't have to build big, huge energy plants to capture the wind for energy. You don't have to build all kinds of equipment to capture the sun for energy. Trees do it all by themselves. Nature takes care of it. It's a good invention that God had, these trees, you know, because they do a lot of things. A lot of people don't realize how much stuff comes from wood. Most houses, as far as single dwelling, are built with wood. Plywood, cabinets, flooring, tables, chairs, shelves, wood. A lot of it comes from wood. Most of it comes from wood. There's tons of things that can be made with wood. Tons. Tons. Another reason that logging or cutting firewood or using forests in general is a good thing is that it actually cleans the forest out. In nature, if we weren't here, there would be fires all the time. Fires are natural. People try to stop them because they don't want their dwellings to be burnt down or lose, you know, their property. But in nature, fire is a very normal thing. And by logging it off, it prevents a lot of old and dead trees from dying off and then creating a fire hazard. Some of you have probably heard about all the fires they have in certain parts of the United States. Canada, it's pretty normal. They let a lot of those fires burn. In California and some other western states, they try to put them out because there's a lot of people there and they want to protect their property. But if they did responsible logging, took out the mature trees, cleared out the debris from the forest of old trees, it would be a good thing, because that's what lightning does. It normally hits the woods, starts a fire, and it burns off. Then new stuff grows up. It's just the way it is, but a lot of people don't realize that. This one is probably, to me, one of the best parts of firewood. It is the best form of heat there is. There's nothing like having a fire to warm yourself by, whether it's outside or in your backyard with a fire pit, or if you're burning in a fireplace, or if you've got wood heat with a stove. There's nothing like wood heat. It is just awesome, especially if you live in a cold climate like we do here in the Midwest. Having wood heat is fantastic. My mom used to, all the time, want the fire going as soon as it cooled off, all through the winter, and she refused to get turn the gas stove on. She always wanted the wood heat because the whole house is just warm. And the thing is, with wood heat, especially if you're cutting the wood yourself and you get the wood either in your own woods or if you're getting wood for free, other than your labor, it's basically free heat. There's a lot of people that heat their homes for no cost because they cut all their own firewood. There's nothing that feels as good as wood heat. It's a drier heat, and you can have it as warm as you want. You can crank the heat up. I have one of my customers, he's about 80 years old. I sell wood to him every year. And one time I was delivering to him and he had bought like his second or third load of wood for the year. I think it was like 2 full cords he had got. And I delivered it to him. I said, man, I says, you must really like it warm in the house. He says, I like to keep it about 80. He said, and then I put some more wood in to make it hotter so that when my wife complains that it's too hot, I just tell her to take more clothes off. That guy's got his priorities right. That's it for today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow, 5:30 a.m. with a new video. Between now and then, go to my channel, watch some more videos. It'll be good for you. Good night, everybody.